My name is Gabriel Avăcăriței. I'm Chief Editor with Energynomics. This is the most comprehensive communication platform for energy in Romania. I'm a journalist for more than 20 years, and for the last 12 years I have been covering the energy industry in Romania and in the region. I have written articles, I have conducted interviews, I have organized and moderated many events, 10 plus per year at the moment. And I suppose that this is the reason that the organizer considered me appropriate for moderating this panel. Thank you, Nicola, very much, and thank you also all of you for being here, for being interested in these topics, and in fact, for being instrumental in developing the energy industries in our countries. The main topic of the summit is around the PPAs, but we will now dive for 45 minutes into getting more information on the specific countries, Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, and Turkey. Thank you, all the speakers, for accepting this invitation and being part of this conversation. Before inviting each of them to address the initial comments, for 5 minutes, each of you, and then start the conversation, I will just say a couple of words about the present situation in the region. I think that we are in the best moment ever, especially for Romania and Bulgaria, but for the whole region. There are two trends that I think that are very important at the moment. First of all, there are many projects under development in our countries. This makes the perfect context for a huge competition between developers. Competition in attracting and securing financing, in attracting and securing partners for EPS services, O&M, and so on. This is one key topic, which is to be seen all over the region. The second one is this consolidation that is happening in our countries. Through mergers, through acquisitions, smaller players become bigger and big players becoming even bigger. Besides, leaving these two trends aside, there are many elements in common and many differences between the countries. And this is the moment to find out more about these specificities. I will invite now Irene Mihai, Policy Officer for Romanian Photovoltaic Industry Association, to address us the first messages. Please.
Thank you, Gabriel. First of all, thank you so much for the organizers for the invitation. I think it's a great format to discuss about our regional markets, because we have similar problems, similar solutions, and I think we can learn a lot from each other. The Romanian market now stands at around 5.5 gigawatts of solar of installed capacity, which is split almost evenly between utility scale projects and prosumers. Now, 5.5 gigawatts may not seem like a big number compared to other markets, but I think it's important to note that we restarted the solar industry as a whole in 2022 with 1.4 gigawatts. So we had over 4 gigawatts of installed capacity in the past 3 years, which I think is a great development considering, first of all, how the market conditions were for the past 2 years, and also considering the whole context. Now, as I mentioned, we are split evenly between prosumers and the utility scale sector, but when it comes to the national targets, we are standing at 10 gigawatts of solar that needs to be installed by 2030, out of which 6.4 in utility scale projects and 3.5 in prosumers, which is a target that I think will be attained by the end of this year, so we should be more ambitious on this. And no, my math isn't failing me, because I mentioned in total 9.9, but there are also other applications of solar, some of them being in the agricultural industry, for example. In the National Energy and Climate Plan, we have targets for solar for agricultural purposes, such as irrigation, such as ensuring the energy consumptions for the farms. So we see that solar is becoming more and more prevalent at the societal level, not only when it comes to generation, but also to the individual users. Now, because BESS was mentioned earlier, our national target is a bit low. It's 1.5 gigawatts, as you heard, but the market is developing much faster. And now in the pipeline, we have around 5 gigawatt hour of projects that are funded through different mechanisms, such as recovery and resilience or the modernization fund. And also the market itself, without the funds, is developing quite nicely. Every new project that is being developed now has a battery attached to it, because you cannot deal with the imbalances, you cannot deal with curtailments, with negative prices without having this assurance mechanism. Of course, these numbers mean nothing without the workforce that's necessary to be able to deploy all of these capacities. So based on how the market develops and based on the targets that we have, we expect around 100,000 people working in the industry, full-time employees, by 2030 in solar alone. So again, solar has a lot of opportunities, not only when it comes to prices, not only when it comes to market development, but also when it comes to employment. And sticking with the core subject of our event, and that's PPAs, I would like to point out that Romania had some significant developments for the PPA market over the past year and a half. We went from basically being able to count the number of signed PPAs on one hand to now having over 25 of them, 14 for solar, 10 for wind, and one of them is mixed. And out of this, 5 were signed since the beginning of this year. So we see the trend for the development of the PPA market in Romania, which is a great signal for how the market is developing and how mature it's going to become in the next years. What I'd like to point out is that these developments happened more or less in the past 2 to 3 years. But the most significant year for renewables in Romania was 2024, because we had quite a lot of developments, of positive developments that happened. And I would like to start with the strategic documents that the country has, and that's the National Energy and Climate Plan and the Energy Strategy. I've mentioned 10 gigawatts for solar with the NECP, and I would like to point out that we have 14 gigawatts of solar in the Energy Strategy by 2035. And even though we don't have a split, I think it's safe to assume that 9 of them would be in utility scale projects. Aside from that, after a long discussion with the National Regulatory Authority, we managed to introduce the guarantees mechanism for grid connection, meaning that we are more or less cleaning out the grid from the speculative projects. So now when you want to develop a project in Romania, you have to pay a 5% guarantee that you are going to develop the project and not block the capacity, which is a great step in cleaning up the market, which is a great step for having more space for renewables. Aside from that, I think the most exciting development of last year is the CFD mechanism. It was well awaited from the industry, and it was a great success. Last year, we auctioned 1.5 gigawatts, out of which 1 in wind and 500 megawatts in solar, and we had great participation. I think it opened the way for the development of large-scale projects, and we saw that a lot of new developments are happening. At the beginning of the year, we did a mapping on the capacities that are going to be deployed this year, and we saw that around 1.6 gigawatts of projects are being under construction with COD this year. So I think it's safe to assume that we will have around 1.2 gigawatts in utility-scale projects deployed into only 1 year, and that would be paralleled by the developments in prosumers. And of course, there are other avenues for development in Romania. So this year we have the second round of the CFD, which was just launched. We have a greater capacity auctioned. We expect a lot more participation. And I think it's a great step forward for the renewables in general. Another significant development, because I've asked earlier about the guarantees of origin, is the fact that we now have a draft of legislation that would allow Romania to become an EIB member, a full EIB member by 2027. So we expect that the pool of off-takers will grow for us. And of course, when it comes to our international output, we are in talks to become an OACEA member, and that would open the market even more. So Romania as a whole has developed, the Romanian market, the Romanian energy market as a whole has developed significantly over the past years. And I think that the way forward is sunnier and brighter for us. Having made this introduction, I would like to
Thank you, Irene.
give the floor.
Many updates from Romania, indeed. Let's move now to a more mature market, to Greece, and please pass the microphone to Stelios. Stelios, Psomas?
Yeah, I have some slides, yeah.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody.
Here.
Okay, this one, okay. The Greek market seems to be the more mature in the area of Balkans. Actually, it was not an easy road. As you can see, we were almost dead for 5 years, but during the last 5 years we increased with a rate of increase which is surprising even us. Last year we reached almost 10 gigawatt of cumulative installed capacity, and this year we expect a similar rate of growth. Up to now we have 750 megawatt connected to the grid this year, and we expect it to reach the market to reach 3 gigawatt again. And this is due to the fact that we have a lot of mature projects, especially big ones. In fact, almost 20 gigawatt of grid connection offers have been offered to investors, which means that we still have a way to go. Last year, the PV accounted for 93.5% of all newly installed capacity in the country. It's an amazing, it's a monopoly. Unfortunately, the wind only made up 126 megawatts. Hopefully this year they will install more. But all these years, you know, wind was a dominant player. Now wind has half the installed capacity we have. We are based mainly in small and medium-sized solar parks. Our market is mainly composed of these parks. We have fewer self-consumption schemes. Last year we had almost 400, and from last year on we expect a lot of utility scale projects. So the segment share is shifting, is changing all the time. But I think this year, it's the last year probably that projects based on feed-in premiums will prevail. As of next year, will be based mostly on merchant projects, be it in the exchange market or PPAs. Talking about PPAs, the government has offered incentives for almost 3 gigawatt of PPAs between project developers and off-takers, and these off-takers are either the energy providers or large energy-intensive industries. Parallel to that, we are developing the storage market. Unfortunately, the government was very slow in that. We started discussing about the need for storage in 2020. We had the first legislation in 2022. We had, the next year we had the first auctions for storage, and still we don't have any storage of considerable size installed. The funny thing is that there are days where solar contributes 60-70% of the market, and the grids are withstanding with no storage. The interest for investments in storage is huge. You can see some figures there. We have 85 gigawatt of applications. Of course, not all of it can be realized, but in a very, in a U-turn, really, the government decided this year to set a target of almost to offer grid connection to storage for almost 6 gigawatt in the next 3 years. Up to now, they insisted that, well, we should have 1.5 gigawatt. There is a danger of cannibalism. And suddenly they changed their mind. They've seen all this interest, and they are offering 6 gigawatt of storage under certain conditions. My feeling is that by the end of the decade, we'll need 8 gigawatt of storage, which will be enough to balance, in a way, the situation in the market. Going back to the PV, the national target, the new national target for PV is 13.5 gigawatt by 2030. We will achieve this target already early next year. So what's the point of having national targets? Now, what is the key issue in the market nowadays? It's curtailments. We faced curtailments for the first time last year, but these were among large projects, that is projects that were connected to the high voltage. So people didn't care. Now curtailments, for the first time, they touch the small investors, and of course small investors are more vocal. Here is the blue line shows the two peaks in the spring and the autumn of last year. We had almost 900 gigawatt hours of curtailments. Of course, last year was an exceptional year with high radiation in the area, more than 10% above the average. This year, so far, we have almost double the curtailments, and this is our estimate of how the curtailments will end up by the end of the year. We expect something between almost 100 and 1.8 terawatt hours curtailed this year, and we expect this to be the worst year, to be honest. Although we expect more PV to be installed, we don't expect more curtailments, and the reason is that as of next year, we'll have a lot of batteries installed, so there will be a balance in the market. Still, well, it's very difficult to convince investors when they see losing money, and they are terrified. But I would suggest to calm and take a look at the broader picture. We are now facing a lot of parallel changes. The market is changing dramatically. Maybe never in the past we had such changes, such an energy transition. We're not only changing technologies. There is not only a challenge with grids. We are changing the business models. For the first time, we're talking about merchant projects, about PPAs, about self-consumption, about all these are happening at the same time, simultaneously. Now, the good news is that on the political level, there seems to be a very much support, a long support from the political parties and the political system. There is resistance mostly to wind, and nowadays to a large-scale PV as well. But the majority of the people want the renewables. So, and also another key factor, the banks are financing the projects. And even though they were not familiar with merchant projects and PPAs and storage, they will finance the projects after all. There are a lot of foreign investors in the country also, and they wonder whether they should insist on the Greek market because of all this situation. The truth is that for newcomers, developing projects from scratch doesn't have a meaning until 2030, but there are a lot of opportunities for acquiring existing licenses. There are a lot, now the secondary market is, I believe it will increase considerably as especially small investors are willing to get rid of their projects, and it's a good opportunity for somebody to gather a lot of a cluster of projects and create a big portfolio. As I said, curtailments are the key issue this year. We expect curtailments to drop as time passes. There is an estimate recently that for every gigawatt of batteries installed, there is almost 0.0 terawatt hours of less curtailments. That gives us the opportunity to increase the capacity of PV while keeping the curtailments in a level that is not dangerous for the investments. And obviously we need change in our policies. Our targets are obsolete. Thank you.
Thank you, Stelios. So huge solid development and curtailments is the main problem. We'll now move to Bulgaria. I will give the floor to Miglena Stoilova, the chairwoman of Bulgarian Wind Energy Association. Miglena, please.
Thank you. Thank you for the word and a really nice event. And I'm glad to see that so many people are joining the second day of the event. You've heard a lot about Bulgaria because we are the host. So yesterday you heard Angelin Tsachev and the Minister of Energy, today Mr. Zarchev. So we basically outlined the Bulgarian situation, but anyway, I will probably repeat some of the things to summarize where we stand, and I will take some thoughts from what Romania and Greece mentioned just to make the parallels. In Bulgaria, we are making like a huge steps towards the decarbonization of the countries with or without the political support. So you've seen that for 2 years we decreased the thermal power plant generation from more than a half to like a third of the generation in 2024, and I think this will be a much lower number in 2025. So we are on a good track in terms of decarbonization of the electricity mix. And that's mainly due to the solar investments in the country. We have currently around 4.7 gigawatts in operation, and we are expecting around 2 gigawatts more by the end of the year, early next year, which is a considerable number. And we are seeing nowadays solar producing more than 60% of the electricity during the days, in some of the days in these transitional periods. Unfortunately, and especially for me as the chairperson of the Bulgarian Wind Energy Association, we don't see wind coming into the system since 2012. And that's mainly due to some administrative barriers, some local opposition and public opinion that is not much in favor of this technology. And as we were speaking last week with Giles Dixon, who is the Wind Europe CEO, in Germany there is a good example because Germany was not very good on the track of wind in the 3 years ago, for example. But this was wind was established as a priority of overriding public interest. This was widely communicated with the institutions, local authorities, the general public, the courts, and now we see in the last 2 years Germany making good steps in this direction to accelerate the deployment of wind. I hope we will learn from this example and make this happen in Bulgaria as well. And why making it happen? Not because for the sake of the investors, this is for the sake of the consumers and the system. Mr. Zachev earlier said that it's better that the energy mix is balanced in a way so that he doesn't need to activate balancing capacity. And in order to balance the energy mix, you need to have wind and solar complemented in a proper way, so an optimal mix to be in place so that you manage to produce base load renewable electricity. This, with the help of the battery coming into the system, is absolutely achievable. So what we are making in terms of battery, we have the beginning of this year, we had the first battery system installed, and we are seeing this making a very good steps forward in the recent months as well. Bulgaria has awarded under the Recovery and Resilience Plan 10,000 megawatts of standalone battery grants. And there is a good number of co-located battery. As we heard, there are preliminary grid connection agreements signed for 30 gigawatt hours, yes. A modest number as compared to Greece, but still it's quite significant considering the load of the Bulgarian 6 months, which is around 4-5 gigawatts. In terms of what we are doing politically, so I see it as a very good example what you shared about the CFD auctions. The CFD auction is probably the most powerful instrument in order to have renewables in the grid at the cheapest price for the consumer. Unfortunately, this is not at all in the political discussion currently, and we don't see it happening. Of course, we have the PPAs as an option. We saw the first PPAs, if I'm not wrong, 2023, and then we had a handful of PPAs signed, but we see currently, last year and this year, completely the interest of the investors really low. And that's due to some aspect that probably we'll discuss later on, so I will not touch upon this. So, yeah, this is something that we look forward, because in order for renewables investments to happen, we need financing, and the financing institutions, the investors, they look forward to predictability, stability of the cash flows. So that's the instrument. Other than that, currently what we are doing as investors is to make these co-located or standalone batteries in order to balance our mix of produced electricity, so that we could offer more reliable and desired products even on the short-term markets.
Thank you, Miglena. Let's move to Mariyana Yaneva. You all know her already, Vice Chair of the Association for Production, Storage and Trading of Electricity in Bulgaria. Mariyana, please.
Thank you, Gabriel. I think that I really know most of the people in the room, but in any case, if you're a newcomer to the event, welcome. And yes, I'm Vice Chair of the Association for Production, Storage and Electricity, and will be very short because I'll do a very brief recap with some visual aid on what just Miglena told you and Irene. The markets are pretty the same picture you see across the whole region. So what you see on this slide is 24 years of development of renewables in Bulgaria, and you can see the clear line for development of wind and solar back then, where they were supported by feed-in tariffs, and this is no longer the case over the last 3 years, but nevertheless the peak growth is really incredible, and the speed at which it's installed in Bulgaria too, which has different aspect. What you saw, this is just a different version of what Dimitar Zarchev showed you in the first panel. This is how the electricity mix in Bulgaria is changing over the last 5 years. And you can see that in 2020, solar was just 4% of the electricity mix, growing up to 14% in just 3 years. That's an incredible story in itself, but it's also posing some different problems, mainly on the markets. These are the prices you see in the markets. The one with the most red is 2022, when we had the extremely high volatile prices on the electricity markets. And then you can see how the market gradually went to more affordable levels for everyone in 2023. And 2024 is the first year where you see the effect on the solar in noon hours and the high prices peaks in the evening. So the high red prices that you see are all around 18 o'clock in the evening. So this is a very clear peak that you have in the evening hours after sunset. And the deep blue that you see on the last graph is the noon hours. These are zero or negative prices at noon hours that we currently experience in Bulgaria, but also across the markets. Self-curtailment is something that can be done, but it's better to store the energy. Hence, the next trend that we will see on the market is trying to hedge the solar capture prices with the spread that is currently so attractive to any investment in storage looking to do arbitrage on the system. So this is clearly coming, and this is very well modeled in Excel. It's also, I want to stress that technology behind it and the choices are very important also, because the Excel works only if you know how the technology works behind it. And on the long term, I would like to see more of this flexibility incorporated into power purchase agreements. These are the officially announced deals. There are more, which is not public, but still, these are the PPAs deals that were announced in Bulgaria over the last 3 years. And unfortunately, from this year, we only have one, but the rest are currently also in execution, let's say. And we will see more of this, I hope, because as we mature as an industry, we're no longer looking for the cheapest source on the market. We will be more and more looking on the sources that make the best mix and the most resilient mix, because we want a stable system and stable security of deliveries at the end of the day. And this is the end of my short presentation. Thank you, Gabriel. Let's move to another market.
We'll move to Turkey now with the help of Borga Karagülle, General Manager of Smart Solar Technologies. Please, a few words about the situation in Turkey.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, okay. It's great to be here. Thank you very much for the invite. So I will try to explain you how are things going on in Turkey into more segmentation so that you can have a comprehensive idea how the market is developing in Turkey. So basically what we do is we started the solar energy somewhere around 2007. And then it was a slow pickup. Yeah, for years we had we have to design the models, design the legislation, and all those other things. The finance wasn't there, and but like a couple of years, it has. The pace is here. Yeah. So right now we have somewhere approximately 22 gigawatts installed capacity right now in Turkey, and then last year we installed 6 gigawatts. So it's a huge, huge number. What we expect for 2025 from the numbers which are coming up the last couple of months is that we will definitely see somewhere the installation is going to be around 4.5 to 5.5 gigawatts. So it's a huge, huge market. And basically what we do in Turkey, we divide the market into 5 different segmentations. One of them is the residential. And the other thing is the commercial rooftops. Then you have the utility scale projects, and then we call them MIECA, but it's basically the English version would be, I don't know if it makes sense, but it is renewable energy industrial areas. So basically the government will designate an area and we'll do an auction about it. And the last one is basically the next big thing is the batteries, yeah, so battery projects. So if you look at the residential market in Turkey, like every year in the company as well, we are trying to estimate if the residential market is going to pick up. And unfortunately, every time we are wrong. Yeah, every time we are trying to push ourselves to, okay, this year the residential market is going to go up. But unfortunately, it stays, let's say, very limited. Yeah, and one of the, couple of reasons for that. Yeah, I will explain it to you. The electricity prices, if you compare to Europe, are still very low on the residential side, and the economies of scale, unfortunately, is not there. So basically, even if you want to make a residential project and if you want to get a loan about it, yeah, the interest rates are unfortunately so high that the return on investment is going to be quite high. Yeah, so it's better to stick up to electricity, and we have a very solid infrastructure. So most of the time we don't have any problems with the loss of electricity or something like this. So the reliability is there. And the residential market, unfortunately, because of those reasons, didn't pick up yet. And we hope that, of course, like the best scenario for that would be the interest rates would go down. We don't want to pay more for the electricity, of course. Yeah, it would be nonsense. But since if the finance is there, I'm sure it will pick up. Yeah, and then we go into the basically the commercial rooftops. Yeah, we used to do lots of commercial rooftop projects in Turkey during the 2022, 2024, and then a new legislation came up, a new law came up saying that, because you are doing the project on rooftop, yeah, it's always the investment figure is not always what you expect because of the static problems on the rooftop and where this rooftop is located. You know, then if it's getting too much snow, too much wind, all those problems. And sometimes, you know, like you are doing 2 commercial rooftops, one of them is in the north of Turkey, one of them is in south of Turkey. So basically you get different ROIs, different IRRs. And I think our government did something very good to, you know, like make everything very smooth. So if you have a rooftop and you want to do a solar project, then after 2024, you basically can go and do a utility scale project, and with net metering, you just offset what you are using in that sense. Yeah. So this was a huge success, and this is because what we had a leap in the installed capacity. So because, I mean, for example, if you have a bank and you have all these branches scattered around Turkey, so what you do is you make a 200 megawatt one project, a utility scale project, and then you offset all your branches over there. Yeah, so which gives you an advantage in like financing, also in you know, taking care of the plant, and also you can choose the area that you're going to invest. So you can basically, you know, like get a hit for the IRR. Yeah, so this was I mean, like this is the commercial rooftop projects, but right now they are evolving into utility scale for the last 2 years. And then we go into basically utility scale projects. So as I said, utility scale projects basically comes from the rooftop projects, because unfortunately, in order to get a license for a utility scale project, you have to go into tenders. And those tenders, we call them YECA, which is basically opens as the renewable industry areas, so that last year for 2024 we had a tendering process of 800 megawatts. Yeah, so this was consisting of 4 different projects, and the minimum bid price was $3.25. Yeah, and then the, let's say, average price that it went to was 2.25. So the prices are very low. Basically, you can just, you know, like when you crunch in the numbers, I mean, you can come up with a, let's say, acceptable IRR, because the irradiation in Turkey is very good, and now the investment prices like are going down, the module prices are going down, pretty much everything, every price aspect is going down, as well as the balance of system, yeah, BOS, because the modules are getting more efficient and more bigger, so you can make some adjustments from the BOS as well, and making these prices workable. Yeah, so this YECA projects will continue, yeah, next years. So probably they're going to have 1 gigawatt or 1.2 gigawatt of worth of projects next year for the capacity. And yeah, the next big thing is batteries. Yeah, I mean, everybody's talking about it. I mean, if you haven't been into Intersolar like last couple of weeks ago, it was packed. Yeah, I mean, like if you want to buy a battery, like there's no way. Yeah, you can't even go into the stands. So the next thing is going to be batteries. And right now we have the licensing of 14.6 gigawatts. These are the already pre-licensed projects, and we will have more to come, probably a 20 gigawatt more, which is going to be licensed as well. And the prices are more healthier on those projects. Yeah, so you basically approximately it's around 4.5 to 3.75. Yeah, so if you are doing a battery business, then it is quite better IRRs and better ROIs, so you can present it to the banks and also this funds and everybody who's like going to finance your project. You know, it's a better and healthy option to go into battery systems. So if you are a foreign investor and want to go into a project in Turkey, so there are 2 options. The first option is go into tendering with the ECA process, and then the other option would to buy from the project developers battery operated solar project basically. And what we are expecting that unfortunately there is no, you can't sign a PPA with an off-taker in Turkey. Yeah, this is what we are going to try to change this year. Yeah, hopefully. And because right now what you are doing is if you are doing a utility scale project, I mean this has to basically it has to match up what you are consuming on the other side. So when you sell to the grid, basically you are getting the same price that you are buying. So it's a different system. Yeah, it's not a feed-in tariff. I mean, it's not a PPA, but it's somewhere in the middle. But I think the most healthy thing and the next step for Turkey would be to let us sign PPAs with the off-takers. Yeah, so pretty much, yeah, this is it.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for this comprehensive overview of the situation in our countries. I would say that the renewable energy capacity deployment is very solid and accelerating in all of our countries. So who needs PPAs? Of course, the developers, the investors, and the banks need PPAs. But also, there is a point to be made that the off-takers need PPAs, and also the general public and the authorities, as a representative of the people, need PPAs in terms of stabilizing and a better prediction of on the prices. Let's take some moments with the PPAs, and my understanding is that there are two major categories of problems. One is related to regulation, and that would be in the case of Romania with this delay in implementing the European and tradable guarantees of origins, and also keeping the prices at artificial low prices, which is a kind of a similar problem in Turkey, I understand. There is also a slightly different problem in Greece with the curtailments as a main issue, and I'm interested to see if some form of PPAs in some specific legal agreement might be helpful, and also to find out more about Bulgaria. Please start, Irene, and tell us something about what are the prospects that the situation will improve in terms of prices in Romania, so that the off-takers maybe become more interested in signing PPAs.
Well, I think first of all, it's very important to point out that PPAs are encouraged at the European level in the sense that they are part of the European market design and they are complementary to the CFDs. So indeed, everyone needs PPAs because we need price stability, long-time price stability. Now, the situation in Romania is that we have a price cap in place until June, tentatively. The idea is that we don't have the clear view of what will happen after that point. So I come from academia, so one of the cardinal rules of academia is you don't make predictions. And that is because the humankind is very, very diverse and very complex. So when it comes to what will happen in the future, I cannot give you an answer on that. But I think it's only natural that we come back to the competitive base of the market to have the prices reflect both the request and the offer. So what we advocate for as an association is the removal of the price cap in order to have this market competitive principles. But until we see exactly what will happen in practice, it's very difficult to give you an overview of what will to come.
No prediction, but maybe a comment on this relationship between CFD scheme and PPAs. Is there a competition, a cannibalization?
I would say that they are complementary. And what I saw in the first and what I see now in the second run of the CFD tender is that we have partial capacity. So we have companies that apply with part of the capacity for the CFD with the prospects of signing a PPA for the other part of the capacity. So again, as in the European legislation, they are complementary. I don't think there is a risk of cannibalization, especially considering that the CFD capacity is pretty limited compared to the market potential for PPAs.
Thank you. Only 5 minutes for us today. So please, Miglena, tell us a few more about these problems in Bulgaria against PPAs.
Yeah, as you saw from the slide of Mariyana, so we really have a handful of PPAs, and even though they were on the rise in the beginning when they originated, nowadays they are going down. The investors are disincentivized to look for PPAs, and this was discussed yesterday and today. The reason for this is that in Bulgaria the consumers are compensated when the price of electricity is high. So for the months when it's high, they are compensated. When the price is low and negative, they benefit from these low prices, and this is obviously disincentivizing if they know that going forward they will be supported by the state in this way. There is no way, no interest from them to sign PPAs, because a PPA, even though it can give like a long-term predictability for them and for the price, it's goes hand in hand with certain contractual obligations, commitments. The business horizon that they have to predict is much longer, so it's much more convenient to stay with the current regime. And then the other thing is we keep on having these price caps. So for the produced electricity, which makes the financial PPAs absolutely impossible. What is possible, what we think is something that could unlock the door for the wind power that is in the system. It's not so much, it's 700 megawatts, but still these are operational wind power plants that are no longer incentivized in any way, so they can sell their electricity under some kind of long-term PPAs, but the problem there is that they are obliged to sell their electricity on IBEX, and the IBEX products are not PPAs, but rather short-term products. So these are the barriers that I see like in a condensed way to PPAs in Bulgaria. And as you said, this with the curtailments, we currently, so I'm really frustrated knowing what's happening in Greece and that it might come here, and probably as we are having more and more unbalanced renewable mix, that will be the case. Currently, the producers are limiting themselves when they sell electricity on the market, and that's what we discussed in the previous panel, that we saw like 160 megawatts down during only the month of March and April.
Thank you. We are still in the legislative regulation part where the problems come from. Our last angle to attack now, curtailment and PPAs. Obviously, the technical solutions are at hand for tackling curtailments, and also probably digitalization and increase intraday short-term markets trading. But I heard in Romania some conversation about this idea to implement some form of regulation that would make electricity covered by PPAs safe, secure from curtailment. Do you see something like that possible in Greece, or of any use?
It's all an agreement between the off-taker and the producer, what they will agree. Don't forget, PPAs are private contracts. In theory, PPAs should be somewhere between CFDs, which are almost risk-free, and the risky merchant projects. Now, strangely enough, although the EU is supporting CFDs for renewables, we are moving away from CFDs. As I told before, this year will probably the last year that CFDs prevail in the market. We're moving toward merchant projects. So far, PPAs in Greece are between producers and energy providers or energy-intensive companies. Recently, the Energy Exchange of Greece has taken initiative to create a platform to bring smaller off-takers to be involved in the PPA market. However, because my job is to predict the future, and so far I'm doing quite well. Although it's risky, I advise my customers to don't be afraid of merchant projects. The problem with merchant projects is that they cannot be financed easily. Once they're financed, they offer better IRRs, even than from PPAs. So don't be afraid of that. There is a limit to PPAs. Of course, we need more PPAs, but we cannot solve our problems with PPAs. We also need CFDs. there is a reason that the EU is supporting CFDs for renewables.
Thank you, and a very good idea as indeed this platform for small off-takers, and of course, don't be afraid of the market. Please, one final word from you two.
I'll be very short, and don't be afraid of the market is a very good slogan to complete the panel. There is never a dull moment for the renewables development over the past 25 years. And I believe that the market and the PPA or CFD is one and the same thing. It's just a different off-taker. So what you need is actually a guarantee that this PPA, both sides will receive what they negotiated for. And that's the guarantee that the state or the finance institutions should provide to jumpstart the markets over here. So contract for differences is just a form of a power purchase agreement, and the power purchase agreement between two corporate parties and between a state and a corporate party, in its essence, is one and the same thing. So no need to be afraid. The only thing you need to know is to understand the risks associated with the volumes and the price. And that's it.
A bit less market in the CFD schemes, I think. Borga, please, the final word.
Yeah, mine is very quick. Yeah, we don't have PPAs in Turkey, so, but nevertheless, yeah, just let me some final remarks. Yeah, well, I think the thing is, all these countries, we started with feed-in tariffs. Yeah, so basically it was governmental PPAs in a sense. Yeah, so I'm more like my personal idea is every country which is implanting the PPAs in the correct way is going to grow a lot. Yeah, so basically the most important thing on these renewable projects is the financing. Yeah, everybody's talking about the capacities, but I think capacities is there. The only thing is how much money you are going to invest and how much money you are willing to invest in these projects. And finance is, I think, like the key process. So PPAs is a very good idea and very good instrument in order to secure the finance, which is with hopefully you can get a very good PPA. At the end, PPA is a sales contract between two companies, which is the selling product is electricity. Yeah, so and then you agree on a price, you agree on a term, and then hopefully with that agreement you can get a better financing options and a very quick one from a financing institute or a bank, and then you can implement the project itself very quickly. So it will help to increase the installed capacity of your country, basically. Yeah.
Thank you, and a final word from me, ladies and gentlemen. It seems that the players are very much aware and ready for a situation when the development of RES capacities is not based on huge public subsidies anymore, but on market mechanism. Let's all us together push the politician to accept that and remove any administrative barriers against that future. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you all of you for your inputs.